The human brain is an architectural marvel of biological engineering, but its brilliance is entirely dependent on its infrastructure. For over a century, we have viewed dementia through the lens of neurology, focusing on the neurons themselves and the toxic proteins that eventually smother them. We looked at the amyloid plaques and the tau tangles as the primary villains in a tragic play. However, a new scientific consensus is emerging that suggests we have been looking at the effect rather than the cause. The real story begins not with the neurons, but with the vast hidden network of plumbing that sustains them. Beneath the folds of the cortex lies a 60,000-mile labyrinth of blood vessels, a delivery system so precise that it can redirect oxygen to a single synapse in milliseconds. When this system falters, the consequences are catastrophic. We are now discovering that the earliest whispers of dementia are not found in memory lapses, but in the subtle, silent slowing of cerebral blood flow, a phenomenon that may precede clinical symptoms by more than 20 years.
The shift in our understanding represents a paradigm shift in medical science. For years, clinical trials targeting the removal of amyloid plaques have met with consistent disappointment, leading researchers to ask, what are we missing? The answer lies in hemodynamics. New evidence suggests that faulty blood flow is not just a secondary symptom of a dying brain, but a primary driver that sets the entire neurodegenerative process in motion. By shifting the focus from the trash in the brain to the trash collection system, scientists are uncovering why some brains can tolerate high levels of plaques without developing dementia, while others succumb rapidly. It appears that as long as the blood flow remains robust, the brain can compensate. But when the flow drops below a critical threshold, the biological machinery begins to seize. This realization is forcing us to reevaluate everything we thought we knew about the aging mind, moving us away from a purely protein-centric view toward a more holistic, vascular perspective of cognitive health.
To understand how this failure occurs, we must look at the gatekeepers of the brain's microcirculation, the pericytes. These unique cells wrap around the smallest capillaries like tiny muscular hands, regulating the diameter of the vessels to control blood flow. In a healthy brain, pericytes are hyperresponsive, dilating to allow a rush of glucose and oxygen whenever a nearby neuron fires. But as we age, or under the stress of systemic vascular disease, these pericytes begin to malfunction and die. When they lose their grip, the capillaries constrict, permanently narrowing the pathways of life-sustaining blood. This is the moment of inception for many forms of dementia. The resulting chronic hypoperfusion creates a state of low-level suffocation for the brain. Without adequate flow, the delicate balance of the neurovascular unit is broken. The pericytes failure is the first domino in a long chain of events that leads directly to the loss of synapses and eventually the profound memory loss that characterizes the end stages of the disease.
What happens to a neuron when its fuel supply is cut? It doesn't die instantly. Instead, it enters a state of metabolic distress. In this twilight zone of reduced blood flow, the neuron can no longer maintain its electrical potential or repair its own membrane. This is where the infamous amyloid plaques come back into the story. When blood flow is impaired, the brain's clearance mechanisms, the systems that normally flush out metabolic waste, grind to a halt. It's like a city where the garbage trucks have stopped running because the streets are too narrow to pass. The proteins that were once a normal byproduct of brain activity begin to pile up, forming the toxic aggregates we see in Alzheimer's patients. In this light, amyloid is not the fire, it is the smoke. The fire is the underlying vascular failure that prevented the smoke from being cleared. This explains why treating the plaques alone has failed. You cannot fix a house fire by simply clearing the smoke if the gas line is still leaking.
The failure of blood flow also leads to a breach in the brain's most sacred defense, the blood-brain barrier. This specialized lining is designed to let nutrients in while keeping toxins and pathogens out. However, when blood flow is compromised and pericytes are lost, the barrier becomes leaky. This structural failure allows microscopic amounts of blood proteins and inflammatory cells to seep into the sensitive neural environment. This leakage triggers an immune response, causing chronic neuroinflammation that acts like a slow-burning acid, further damaging the very neurons the barrier was meant to protect. This reveals a dual-threat mechanism. The brain is simultaneously starved of what it needs and poisoned by what should have been kept out. This synergy between low flow and a leaky barrier creates a toxic feedback loop that accelerates the progression of dementia far faster than protein buildup alone ever could. One of the most profound implications of this research is the timeline of the disease. We used to think dementia was a condition of old age that appeared suddenly, but we now know it is a slow-motion process that begins decades earlier. Longitudinal studies using advanced imaging have shown that a decrease in cerebral blood flow is often the very first measurable change in individuals who will later develop Alzheimer's. By the time a patient visits a doctor for memory concerns, the vascular damage may already be extensive. This silent phase of the disease offers a massive window for intervention. If we can identify those with failing brain circulation in their 40s or 50s, we may be able to intervene before a single neuron is lost. We are moving toward a future where a routine brain plumbing check could be as common as a cholesterol test, allowing us to catch the driver of dementia before it ever reaches its destination.
Capturing these early changes requires a new generation of diagnostic technology. Traditional MRI and CT scans are excellent at showing the structure of the brain, but they often miss the subtle dynamics of blood flow. New techniques, such as arterial spin labeling and high-resolution functional MRI, are allowing clinicians to see the vascular ghost of dementia. These tools track how quickly blood reaches specific regions of the brain and how well the vessels respond to cognitive demand. Researchers are even exploring the use of AI to analyze these flow patterns, identifying microscopic irregularities that the human eye might miss. This is more than just better pictures. It is the ability to map the functional vitality of the brain in real time. By quantifying the hemodynamic reserve of a patient, doctors can finally move from reactive care to proactive prevention, treating the vascular system to save the mind.
The therapeutic horizon is shifting as well. If the problem is vascular, then the solution may lie in drugs that protect the blood vessels and the pericytes that control them. Scientists are currently testing compounds that can stabilize the blood-brain barrier and prevent the constriction of capillaries. Some of these treatments are repurposed from other areas of medicine, such as hypertension or cardiovascular disease, while others are entirely new molecules designed specifically to penetrate the brain and support the neurovascular unit. The goal is to keep the vessels flexible and the barrier tight, ensuring that the brain's internal environment remains stable. This approach doesn't just aim to slow down the disease, it seeks to preserve the health of the entire organ system. By focusing on the supply line, we may finally find the key to stopping neurodegeneration in its tracks, offering hope to millions who currently face a diagnosis with no cure.
While we wait for new pharmaceutical breakthroughs, the vascular theory of dementia gives us powerful tools we can use today. It reinforces the ancient wisdom that what is good for the heart is good for the head. Managing blood pressure, controlling blood sugar, and engaging in regular aerobic exercise are no longer just general health advice. They are specific, targeted interventions for brain health. Exercise, in particular, has been shown to stimulate the growth of new capillaries and improve the responsiveness of pericytes, effectively tuning up the brain's plumbing. Even small changes in cardiovascular health can significantly increase the brain's resilience against the onset of cognitive decline. We are learning that we have more control over our cognitive destiny than we once thought. By protecting our vascular system, we are literally feeding our future selves, ensuring that the light of our consciousness continues to receive the fuel it needs to shine brightly into our later years. The identification of faulty blood flow as a driver of dementia is more than a scientific discovery. It is a new way of seeing ourselves. It reminds us that our thoughts, our memories, and our very identities are sustained by a delicate, rhythmic flow of life. As we continue to map the intricate relationship between the heart and the mind, the divide between vascular and neurological health disappears. We are a single, interconnected system where every heartbeat serves the intellect. The journey to end dementia is far from over, but we are finally following the right path, a path paved with the vessels that give us life. By ensuring the flow never falters, we protect the essence of what it means to be human. In the end, the secret to a long life of the mind may simply be keeping the gates of the blood-brain connection wide open. This is the new frontier of neuroscience and the pulse of a new hope.